Yo, what's going on, my brothers and sisters? It's your brother James, Noid-Binns, coming to you guys with another TikTok video here on today. Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you guys are watching this video from. I am still teaching on the same topic. These things will happen in the 7 great years of tribulations, part 27 of this topic and of this video, with the topic 3 unclean spirits, the 7th vial, and also the Tower of Babel. Starting off from Revelation chapter 16, verse 16 through 19. Excuse me if I was messing up there. Verse 16, where it says, "And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon." Verse 17, "And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, 'It is done.'" Verse 18, "And there were voices and thunders and lightnings." It goes into verse 18 saying this, finishing with off of this. "And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great." Verse 19, "And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath," of God's wrath, basically. Then it goes into Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 4, which I will share. Verse 1, where it says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech." Verse 2, "And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plan in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there." Verse 3, "And they said one to another, 'Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly.' And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar." Verse 4, "And they said, 'Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." By the way, I'm reading from the King James Version, if I haven't shared that in the beginning of the video, starting off with that. I'm going back to Revelation chapter 16, verse 16 through 19. So verse 16, where it says, "And he gathered them together," the pronoun he refers to God. Then it goes on in the verse saying, "Into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon." Means this refers to a literal place where a literal battle will be fought. It is the Mount of Megiddo, overlooking the plan of Megiddo, west of the mount, and including the plan of Esdraelon, i.e. Valley of Megiddo. Verse 17, "And the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air." Means this is the last judgment. It signifies, an earthquake, such as the world has not previously known, which will affect not only particular cities, but also entire nations. It goes on to verse 17 saying, "And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, 'It is done.' The mighty voice that shouted, 'Finished from the cross,' will now shout, 'Finished from the throne.'" Again, that was for verse 17. Now on verse 18, "And there were voices and thunders and lightnings." The divine purpose and grace was finished at the cross. Here the divine purpose and wrath is finished. This vile judgment could well take place simultaneously with the second coming. It goes into verse 18, finishing off with the last verse. "And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great." Means presents the last cataclysmic upheaval. Last verse, verse 19. "And the great city was divided into 3 parts," refers to Jerusalem. It goes into verse 19 saying, "And the cities of the nations fell." Means it refers to the Middle East and possibly parts of Europe as well. Then it goes for last verse 19, "And great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath." Means this earthquake, the greatest, of them all, will center on Babylon and will completely destroy the city. Is scheduled to be rebuilt at this present time. So the temple was supposed to be rebuilt around 2003. It goes into the meaning saying, The first organized rebellion against God began at Babylon, and it will end at Babylon, which Genesis chapter 11 verses 1 through 9 talks about. But I shared verses 1 through 4. Verse 1, where it says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech," means before the flood and immediately after the flood, there was only one language on the face of the earth, even though we have no way of knowing specifically that language was probably Hebrew. Verse 2, "And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east," means doesn't refer to every single person, but rather that a great group went in that direction, more than likely led by Nimrod. The phrase "from the east" should have been translated "in the east." Last verse of part 2, where it says that they found a plan in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there, means this prince Nimrod and his city Babylon and the plan on which it was erected, Shinar, all claim attention. They represent Satan's efforts, using man as his agent to oppose and destroy God's plans. God has his prince in his city. So has Satan. And these opposing princes with their cities occupy most of the pages of the Bible, the closing pages of the book, revealing the triumph of Emmanuel and Jerusalem over the Antichrist in Babylon. Verse 3, "And they said one to another, 'Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar." Means considering the materials with which they were to use, they definitely did not plan for this city and tower to be temporary. Verse 4, "And they said, 'Go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven.'" Means it probably signifies the worship of the zodiac, i.e. the planetary bodies. Last part of verse 4, "And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." Means they said marks the undeniable evil of the human heart. They had no regard for what God wanted. In this one verse, we find the seedbed of all rebellion against God, whether then or now. In fact, this was the very first organized rebellion against God. The Lord had told Noah and his sons to be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth, which is in Genesis chapter 9, verses 1. Then it goes into the meaning for verse 4. Now the followers of Nimrod are doing the very opposite. The Lord wanted mankind to be scattered over the earth, but these rebels were determined to defy what God desired. And what's so crazy is the reason why I couldn't read verses 5 through 9 of Genesis chapter 11 because I'm running out of time. But you guys can read that on your own time, and I hope and pray that you guys go to the Lord so that He can help you understand those verses. Also wanted to share, it's so crazy because whatever God does, Satan takes it to pervert it. God makes it holy, and Satan makes it unholy. God makes it sound righteous and looks righteous. Satan looks it makes it looks unrighteous. Sounds unrighteous. If things were just to go God the Father's way, we would all be worshiping God. If Satan would have never had pride in his heart, if he would have never rebelled against God, would have never tried to steal his throne, would have never thought he was better than God, man, he would be where he was. The angels that fell with him, the 1/3 angels that he deceived, and they were with him against Michael and the rest of the angels, but now they're somewhere they shouldn't be. But if they were to just stay put, and if Satan would have never did that, which he did, and he tempted Eve in the Garden of Eden to get to Adam to make all mankind fall, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Everything would be how it's supposed to be. By the way, the second coming leads to the battle of Armageddon. That's a spiritual battle. The Lord isn't coming alone. He's coming with his holy angels and the saints. Those who have died and those who will be raptured. And those who will be persecuted in the coming great tribulation right after the rapture. This is serious.